Go.
Are you? Okay. Our speaker is Izzy Goodman. We first heard about him through Jerry Minich, who's the area APCUG representative for the region. He gave a presentation on the care and feeding of laser and inkjet printers. And he mentioned Izzy, whose company is CCS Services Digital, a services company that provides third-party refilled laser cartridges and inkjet cartridges, and savings of great amounts of money. He is a very strong advocate of not wasting money through these big companies. He particularly feels that HP and I guess Epson have a lot to be desired. So he's going to discuss this with us. And did we find out whether he would like us to save the questions till the end, or if we come up with them, kind of?
Since I can't see the audience, somebody there has to let me know when there's a question, unless we break certain places.
Well, we can do that if you're willing to do it that way.
Not a problem. Just tell me when someone has a question. No, I'll pause. Hello? Hello? Did something just happen?
Apparently Yui is frozen.
There we go. There we go.
It was our internet connection. See that?
Oh, okay.
Okay, just let me know when to go.
We're good.
Hello?
There we go.
We can hear you.
Okay, should I start?
Go right ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Izzy Goodman of CCs Digital. Don't forget the dash, because that would be a different company otherwise.com. And I would like to talk to you about one of the biggest ripoffs taking place across the country. It costs Americans millions of dollars. It's protected by our legal system, even though it violates federal law. I'm talking about the ink monopoly, which was handed to printer companies in the United States. But I'm not just going to tell you about the ripoff, I'm also going to provide a solution. I'm president of Complete Computer Services, known as CCs-digital.com on the net. I started out as a computer consultant working on mini computers. When the IBM personal computer came out, I saw the future, and I started a company to offer services on the personal computer. This was pre-internet, so we had a users group and a bulletin board. A bulletin board is sort of like the internet, but only one person at a time can log in. You did it through a telephone line. Eventually, I went to work for major companies. The last 10 was CBS Television. But I missed the interaction, publishing a newsletter, writing articles. So I started a website which let me do that. My website was strictly an advice site. It was a hobby. When I wanted a digital camera, I waded through pages of technical specs and articles and misleading ads. Then I put the knowledge I had gained into articles on the site with links to deals. Not my deals, other people's deals. Eventually, I discovered the ripoff of ink cartridges. I wrote articles on how to save money on that, particularly with reusable and refillable cartridges. Visitors advised me, why don't you just stock and supply the items you're recommending, and a side business was born. Since I needed a website, I expanded into helping people set up websites with advice, how to find a host, how to get a merchant account, how to put it all together. It took up so much of my spare time, my wife urged me to give it up. But then CBS, after 10 years, CBS had layoffs. I was one of the victims. And I decided to use my downtime to see if there was a real business here. 8 years later, thanks to the increased ripoffs by the printer companies and more people opting to go online for financial independence, I'm still here. So I guess I owe the printer companies something of a thank you. Today, I'm going to talk about printers, ink, and toner. I will also tell you how to get a fantastic printer deal for a brand new printer for $40 with cartridges that cost $1.50. Since I also teach computer classes, I might speak about other topics at a later date. For transcripts, take out your pens and write really fast. Actually, for transcripts, you can just email me at sales@ccs-digital.com, and I'll mail you a transcript of what I'm talking about today. Pay attention because there's going to be a test later. Sorry, I'm a teacher. I always say that to get attention. My philosophy on purchasing is simple. Consumers should be educated. They should investigate not just the price of the printer, but the cost of consumables. You buy a printer once. You buy the ink over and over. A $30 printer that needs $60 cartridges will be a lot more expensive than a $40 printer that needs $7 cartridges. But too many people are bamboozled by that $30 price. Dell actually gives their printers away when you buy a Dell computer. They give you the printer for free because they know they're going to sucker you on the ink for the rest of your life, or until you get smart and throw out the printer. Often have to give callers the bad news that they're better off throwing away their printer than feeding it. Okay, let's start with a brief history. Consumer inkjet printers were available in the 1980s. They had been under development for about 2 decades. IBM developed an early inkjet printer, but it was very expensive and needed very expensive ink. Siemens invented one in 1977, but it was incredibly slow. HP released the first inkjet printer for home use called the DeskJet at a cost of about $1,000. You might guess, but back then, a dot matrix printer, which used a ribbon, was in the $500 range. So $1,000 for an inkjet was really not that excessive. This is why HP has the reputation, because they were the first, and everybody seems to think if you're the first, you must be the best. That has long changed. We'll get into that later. Other companies came up with their own version. Most companies used heat technology, with the printer head heated up and forced out drops of ink. Epson used a different technology called piezoelectric that doesn't use heat. With heat technology, you can never run out of ink. If you run out of ink, your printer's going to burn up. Ink acts like oil in the engine to cool off the heads. Running out causes the heads to burn out. Piezoelectric works differently, so the heads don't burn out that quickly. But if you print without ink in one of the tubes, if you print without ink in the cartridge, the residual ink left in the tube will harden to the consistency of cement, permanently clog the head, and then you'll need new heads. This is why color ink is used even if you're only printing black, and why most printers will not run with the color missing even if you aren't using it. And that's a question I get a lot. I only print in black, and yet I keep running out of blue ink. It's using the colors, either to cool off the heads or to keep the heads from clogging up. And you must make sure that you have all of them, even if you're only printing in black. I've seen sites giving people advice on how to get away with printing in black and fool the printer into not using the color. That's terrible advice. You're destroying the printer. So ink printers had to track usage, and it had to shut the printer down if the cartridge was empty before the heads got damaged. There were numerous complaints and at least one class action lawsuit because printers reported the cartridges being empty when they're really not. And that's another question I get a lot. The printer says my cartridge is empty. When I shake it, I hear ink inside. The printer's company claim, and probably honestly, that it's protection for the printer. The printer doesn't know how much ink is used. It counts pages. And when it hits a certain number of pages, it says at this point the cartridge is probably empty. The problem is it counts empty pages as full pages. It counts quarter page as a whole page because it has to be conservative. It can't afford to have the head get damaged. With a few exceptions, the print heads are buried inside the printer, so changing a print head is a very expensive job. If the heads go bad, the printer is shot. Printer companies hate having to replace a printer under warranty because the owner played games like resetting a cartridge back to full when it really wasn't, or fooling the printer into printing with the cartridge empty. They don't like that. So they do this deliberately, and I can't really blame them for that. HP has a reputation of being very thorough in its product line. They put the printer head inside the cartridge. That means every time you change a cartridge, this is the older printers, the new ones are different, but the older printers, every time you change the cartridge, you were changing the head. It made the cartridge very expensive, but it also means you can refill the cartridge and reset the chip, because the worst that happens if you burn out the head, you buy another cartridge, you get a new head. With other printer companies, you burn out the cartridge and you need a new printer. Now, HP takes the same approach with its lasers. A laser printer needs toner, which is the powder that it prints with, and it needs a drum, which is the electric thing that gets charged. The toner sticks to it, and then it gets transferred to the paper. You have to replace the toner, depending on the printer, every 2,000 to 4,000 pages. You have to replace the drum approximately every 12,000 pages. So most companies sell the toner and the drum separately. HP puts the toner and the drum in one unit. So every time you replace the toner, you're replacing the drum. But that makes HP cartridges a lot more expensive. So now we're back to the problem. HP had a problem. Since their cartridges were refillable, because every time you change the cartridge, you're changing the head, people stopped buying the genuine HP cartridges. They were refilling their old cartridges, and HP wanted to make that money. So they started putting programming into the printers to test the cartridge and reject them if they were compatible or refilled. Several lawsuits later, joined by Epson and others, in 2007, they were handed victory. A judge who had no business rendering a decision ruled that only Epson can make Epson cartridges and only HP can make HP cartridges. This immediately made compatible cartridges a patent infringement. This decision affected the United States only. Other countries understand you can't do that. In some countries, it's illegal for a company to make a product that rejects a compatible. It's illegal to make a printer that rejects a compatible cartridge. A lot of people buy their printers in other countries for that reason. The reason I say this judge was incompetent is because his ruling violates a federal law. Imagine if when you bought a Ford, you had to buy Ford gas, and you had to buy Ford tires, and you had to buy Ford batteries, and you weren't allowed to use any other product. You can just imagine the kind of charges that they would put on it. Why are printer companies handed a monopoly? There's a federal law passed in 1975 called the Morse-Magnuson Act. It was actually done for vacuum cleaners. It states that the company cannot force people to use their consumables or withhold the warranty for using somebody else's consumable. This is a 2007 federal, this 1975 federal law is now being violated by the law that says that only Epson can make an Epson cartridge. So I don't even understand how that judge ever made such a ruling. But that ruling created a new reality for printer companies and customers. Every so often, one of the companies, usually Epson and HP, shut down websites selling compatibles and gets customs to stop shipments of compatible products at the border. Your tax dollars at work helping the robber barons cheat you. This usually lasts for a few months until something more important like preventing terrorism takes priority and customs gets reassigned to something else. Then the printer companies make a renew effort and it starts up again. Right now, this has been going for close to a year with Epson compatible cartridges. Almost all of our suppliers are unable to bring them into the country. So if you have an Epson and you find somebody who's got them, stock up because no guarantee you'll be able to get them later. Now comes the new business model. Until now, companies use the standard capitalist business model, make a good product at a competitive price, which allows for a decent profit, and people will buy it. Now they were handed this monopoly and they took full advantage. Printer prices crashed because they were being sold at a loss. Every company stepped all over each other to give away the printer in order to rip them off on the ink. They doubled and tripled the cost of cartridges. They cut in half the amount of ink provided. They put programming in the printers to reject third-party cartridges. Eventually, a $10 cartridge, which contained 50 milliliters of ink, became a $20 to $30 cartridge, which contained 7 milliliters of ink. Since it takes 540 of these to make a gallon, printer ink is often over $10,000 a gallon. Different companies use different methods to protect their obscene profits. Brother and Canon do a cursory check to make sure the chip is correct. They usually play best with compatibles. Brother laser printers are another story. They have one rather nasty game. Randomly, when you change a cartridge, the printer will act as if it wasn't changed and continue to tell you to change it. When you call Brother, they ask you, is it a compatible? If you say yes, they'll say, well, that's why it doesn't work. If you say it's a genuine one, they'll suddenly come up with a magic key press combination that'll let the printer work. That same magical key press will work even if you're using a compatible. So they deliberately put this in the printer to try to fool people into buying genuine Brother. Okay, that's nasty, but not as nasty as what the other companies do. Epson releases something called a firmware upgrade. That software, it's not a driver, which is what you need to run your printer. It's software that gets copied directly to the printer. And if you didn't turn it off on your printer, some printers allow you to turn it off. If you don't turn it off and you get the message saying a firmware upgrade has been released, do you want to load it? And you foolishly answer yes, all it does is reject compatible cartridges. We have customers using our cartridges for months and they install a firmware upgrade and suddenly the cartridges don't work, even the ones that had been in the printer and working before. So we warn everybody, do not install a firmware upgrade. If your printer has the option, turn it off. Next, Epson tried a two-pronged approach. They put unique serial numbers in the chip of every cartridge. The printer will not allow the same serial number to be used twice. This prevents refilling, because refilling, you take the cartridge out, you refill it, you put it in, it's the same serial number. It also means the chip can't be mass-produced, because every one needs a separate number. So the cartridges became even more expensive. Second, they used to issue 20 printers a year, and those printers use 2 or 3 cartridges between them. Now they borrowed a page from HP. Every printer has its own cartridge. That means a compatible manufacturer is not going to waste their time making one, because who would make a cartridge that only fits one model of printer? It's just not cost effective. Of course, they jacked up their price. On some of the new printers, Epson has a cartridge called the 802. The cartridges are $100 for a set of 4. We tell people they're better off throwing away their printer and buying a Canon for $40 where the cartridges cost $1.50. But the biggest crook is HP. Epson has printers where a set of 4 is $100. HP has printers where each cartridge is $100. A set of 4 is $400. You can buy a top-of-the-line laser printer for less than that. P.T. Barnum was right when he said a sucker is born every minute. I don't know anybody who would buy cartridges for that printer, but unfortunately, people do. Some of you may remember the Hertz-Avis wars. Hertz said, we're number 1, and Avis said, we're number 2, so we try harder. HP's slogan is, we're number 1, so we don't have to try. We don't have to do anything except rip our customers off. They're so hypnotized by our vaunted reputation, they'll accept any garbage we foist on them. I don't even understand how they stay in business. Their dirty tricks have crossed into actual illegalities. They already had to apologize for one. They were facing 3 class action lawsuits, which a judge combined into one, which will soon come to court. Here are some examples. Some of their cartridges come in 2 sizes, a standard and an XL. That XL is extra large. Without any notice, they cut the XL in half. They changed their new printers to only accept the smaller size, but they kept the same number. People went out and they bought the 564 XL or the 920 XL because that's what their printer came with. Then the cartridge didn't fit the printer because they bought the one before the size was changed. I don't understand how a company gets away with that. HP knows that people test the printer with a compatible brand to make sure it works before they buy the printer. So they program the printer to accept the compatible brand 1 or 2 times, and then a few months later, reject it with a random error message. So people assume their printer broke and threw them away. HP got caught on that one. There was a lot of bad feeling on the net. There were calls for a boycott, which I still think is a good idea. That's the one they apologized for. In order to prevent refilling, they put expiration dates in the chips. They are the only company to do this. This means you can buy a genuine HP cartridge, and if you don't use it within a few months, it won't work. If you put it in the printer, it hits that expiration date, it displays a random error. Again, people saw this error, and they were using genuine HP cartridges. They assumed the printer was broken and threw it away. This is one of the things they're being sued for. This is why we don't sell certain HP cartridges. We don't need people yelling at us when these problems come up. We care about our reputation, even if HP doesn't. When HP CEO Carlo Fiorina was running for president, I was terrified. I think her solution to fix the economy was to put an expiration date on money, so if you don't spend it in 3 months, it stops working. Now, here's a pretty awful one. According to posts online, HP reaches into your printer and computer to spy on you. They offer a subscription service where your printer informs them when it's low on ink. They will automatically ship you cartridges and charge you a credit card. They claim there's a 20% savings, but since their price is around 500% too high, a 20% savings doesn't mean much. But here's the disgusting part. If you cancel the service, the cartridges already in your printer stop working. HP claims you only bought a license to use them and you don't own them, and therefore they have the right to do that. I saw this posted on a printer forum where the person showed the email he received from HP telling him, if you cancel our service, your cartridges will stop working. Based on their other actions, I can believe it. Now, this claim about a license was already thrown out of court. Lexmark tried to claim you couldn't refill their cartridges because you were only buying a license to use it once. The court threw that out. They said when you buy a cartridge, you own the cartridge. So HP is making a claim that they know is false. It's very obvious why they're facing a 3-pronged class action lawsuit. My philosophy is avoid this crooked company entirely. Now we come to the conclusion. Find out what consumables will cost before you buy a printer. You usually check the rated MPG before you buy a car. the cost of running an air conditioner before you buy it. So why buy a printer without doing basic homework? There are companies offering $29 printers which use $60 cartridges. For a while, people were just buying a new printer and throwing out the old one so that they got new ink. So the company started putting what's called starter cartridges. The cartridges that come with the printer are like 3/4 empty to begin with. With the crooked company, you can't win. So here's my recommendation. If you can print without color, get a monochrome laser printer. Unlike inkjets, laser printers work on dry toner. It doesn't dry up or clog. I once put a laser printer in a closet for 8 years. 8 years later, I pulled it out, fired it up, and it worked. The toner cartridge that had been sitting in that printer for 8 years worked perfectly. If that had been an inkjet, it would have been clogged beyond repair. I have been using Brother lasers for many years. Despite the little trick I mentioned that they pulled off, you can work around it. Their printers are well made. They're usually priced 10 to 20% below competing models. A monochrome printer is around $70, and an all-in-one with fax and scanning, whatever, is about $130. Unlike other companies, Brother does not use a different toner for every model. The toner will typically fit 10 or 12 models, which makes their toner cheaper. And for about $20, you get a cartridge that does over 2,000 pages. Color lasers are large. They cost about $300, and they need 4 separate cartridges. Those cartridges running about $20 each, you're talking about $80 to $100. Though they're superior to inkjets, the cost and the size is usually too much for the average household, but for a business, it makes perfect sense. So now we come to inkjets. I was an Epson fan for over 20 years, buying and recommending only Epson printers. I was happy to find refillable and reusable cartridges, which yielded great savings. In recent years, in view of their dirty tricks, my loyalties have shifted. Because of the unique serial number on each cartridge, reusable and refillable cartridges are no longer possible for the newer printers. Single-use cartridges have become expensive and hard to find. The firmware upgrades that some people foolishly allow to run makes the cartridges stop working. So that means people who stock up sometimes find themselves with a pile of unusable cartridges. So I started doing some research because I needed a printer for my son, and I bought him a Canon MX922 printer for $99. I liked it so much I bought one for myself. It's now my main printer. Cartridges are between $1 and $1.50, depending on quantity. The photos come out awesome. I've never seen such beautiful photos. In terms of features, it prints both sides of the page. It's got a sheet-fed scanner. It prints DVDs. It does anything I can think of I want a printer to do, and then some. I have never seen such an awesome printer at a good price with inexpensive cartridges. But I promised to tell you how to get a printer for $40. And here's the trick. Microcenter.com is selling the Canon MX922 for $40, but it's in-store only. Staples and Best Buy will price match. So call either one and you can get the printer for $40 with free shipping. Now, depending who you call, sometimes they'll tell you, oh, we don't price match that when it's in-store only. You know what you do? Hang up, call back in an hour, you'll get a different person who will do it. So far, everybody I have told about this has managed to do it. Now, the MX922 is a large printer because of all its features, separate paper trays for photo and regular paper, and the DVD printing and the sheet-fed scanner. Some people have limited space and they want a smaller printer. Canon has a model called the TS6020. It's very similar to the 922, but it's designed for limited space, so it's missing some of those fancier features like the sheet feeder and the DVD printing. Both printers used a very similar 5-color cartridge system. The cartridges look identical, except the Canon 922 uses 251 and the TS6020 uses 271. The 271 are $4 each. Printer companies know people like small printers, and therefore they charge you just a little bit more on those small printers. So before you buy the printer, you have to decide, are you willing to spend about 3 times the price for cartridges in order to get a smaller printer? But then again, $4 a cartridge is still not a bad deal. Microcenter.com has both of them for $40. Now, recently, some printers came up with models that prove Barnum's assumption of a sucker born every minute. These printers don't use cartridges. You pour ink directly into the well. Epson's version is called EcoTank. A number of reviews and publications like the Wall Street Journal herald these machines as the messiah of the printer world. It's going to free you from cartridges. It's going to save you a bundle. Let's take a closer look at the math. The low-end EcoTank sells for $379. That's as much as a high-end color laser printer. The printer itself doesn't even have the features of the MX922, which you can get for $40. So that means you're already overpaying by more than $300 for this printer. You can get over 300 Canon cartridges for what you're overpaying for this printer, even if you needed that many. So where's the savings? You're paying $300 more in advance. Instead of ripping you off on the ink over a number of years, they're ripping you off on the ink all in advance. What happens if the printer breaks? You just spend $300 more for a printer that broke and you can't even use all that ink that they sold you with. But if you happen to think it's a good deal, I have another one for you. I'll get you any car you want at a 400% markup, and I'll throw in 1,000 gallons of gas. Does that sound like a great deal? Doesn't sound fair to me. So that brings me back to my website. My new website is called bestinnkandtoner.com. That's all one word, no spaces, bestinnkandtoner.com. We sell ink and toner cartridges. We don't advertise. Our business comes from recommendations of prior customers. You can read hundreds of customer testimonials, including professional photographers and artists. Everything we sell has a money-back guarantee. We're open about 60 hours a week, including Sunday, just not from Friday night to Saturday night. Best way to reach us is via email. Don't be surprised if you get an answer 2 minutes after sending your email, even at night, even on weekends, but not Friday night to Saturday night. We don't sell printers, but we're very happy to help you choose one because that was the reason we set up the site. We have a free newsletter where we cover topics as protecting yourself online, useful software, much of it free, human interest stories. We're a lot more than just another site selling ink. It's a labor of love. We build relationships. We've never met most of our customers, but we've become good friends over the year. Jerry Minnick is a good friend of mine. I've never met him. I've spoken to him many times. A word of warning, right now Epson is making a big push to enforce their trademark. Customs has been stopping Epson compatibles at the border. Most suppliers are out of stock. We were still able to bring in some shipments. We have one supplier who's somehow managing to do it. Prices are moving up, and sometimes there's a delay getting them in. So don't wait until the last minute. Don't order exactly enough for what you need for now. Now is the time to stock up. We have people who buy 1 or 2 cartridges at a time, and then when they need it, suddenly they have to run to the store. An entire set of ours is less than 1 Epson. I hate hearing that somebody ran to the store and paid $20 for a single cartridge. Now we come to printer maintenance. Laser printers use a dry toner powder. It doesn't dry up or clog. There's very little needed in the area of maintenance, usually replacing the drum. There's something called a corona wire. On some laser printers, you'll see a little plastic piece that runs up and down the length of the cartridge. And when you move it, it's actually cleaning a little charging wire. So if the printer starts looking spotty, that's usually all you have to do. Inkjets use liquid ink, which has to dry or it would run off the paper. That means if the printer isn't used regularly, the ink can clog inside the heads. So make sure you print something every few days, even if it's just a test page, just to keep the heads from clogging up. When you turn off an inkjet, use the power button on the printer. It runs a procedure to clear as much of the ink out of the heads to prevent clotting. The next time you turn it on, it runs a charging process to refill the head. A lot of ink is wasted. The wasted ink winds up in the waste ink tank inside. When the tank is full, the printer stops working. So number 1, avoid turning off the printer. Today's printers have power-saving modes. The penny you save in power is not worth the wasted ink and the possible loss of the whole printer. 2, if you must turn off the printer, use the power button on the printer and not a power strip, because when you shut it off by a power strip, it doesn't run through the shutdown procedure. It leaves all the ink in the head, and that can clog up and destroy the printer. What do you do when the head is clogged? Every printer has a built-in cleaning process, but all that does is shoot ink around in the hope of dislodging the clog. Ink will not dissolve ink. Epson used to sell a head cleaner, and then they decided why bother, just tell people to get a new printer. Fortunately, a head cleaner is relatively easy to make, and if you're not that handy, we sell our own for $7. The only tricky part about cleaning a head is to get the fluid to the head because it's buried underneath the printer. Our kit comes with a syringe and 2 tubes in slightly different sizes. One of them will fit over your printer. We haven't yet found a printer it doesn't fit. You inject a few drops of cleaning fluid to the head. You put the cartridge back. You let the printer sit for hours, typically overnight, and by the next day you should see a tremendous difference. If you can't get to the head, you can inject fluid with the syringe directly into a cartridge. Try to use one that's half empty, don't ruin a new one. Put the cartridge in the printer, that'll get the fluid into the head. It only takes a few drops. There's no need to drown the head in cleaner. Let it sit overnight, you should see a noticeable improvement. To solve other printer issues, visit bestinnkandtoner.com. We have a lot of articles. Look in the footer. You'll see a lot of articles explaining how to fix things. Thanks for listening, and feel free to get in touch. Just send us an email. Any questions? Hello?
Dick, I've unmuted you, I think.
Okay, I'm unmuted. You hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
Go ahead.
Okay, questions?
What was the name? Can you go through how to get the $40 printer again? You
Okay.
have to, it's for sale somewhere?
There are two printers. One is called the MX922. That's the one I have. It's a fantastic printer. It's a little bit large, so if you have little, small space. The other one is called the TS6020. If you go to bestinkintoner.com, at the top of the page, we have the link, exactly where to go to get it. There's a review of the printer, all the features, and how to get it for $40.
Okay. And which one takes the $1.50 cartridge?
The MX922.
The larger one.
The larger one, yeah. Printer companies know that people like smaller printers, so they always charge more for those smaller printer cartridges.
Huh.
But you're talking $1.50 versus $4. It's still not, when you talk about $20 in the store for a single cartridge, it's still not that bad.
You were talking about a Canon that you
Yes.
bought.
Yes.
Okay, tell me about it.
They're both Canon, the MX922 and the TS6020. They're both Canon printers. They're both, I can't say much about the 6020 because I don't have it. I have a friend who has it. The features seem very similar, except the 922 has a sheet feeder and it prints DVDs. It's a bigger printer. It has more features. They both do beautiful photographs. And I recently had to call Canon tech support, and I was very impressed. My printer's 2 years old. I had turned it off because I was going away for a long time and I didn't want it on. I turned it back on and it said the head is not compatible with the printer, which is very weird because it's the printer, the head that came with the printer. I called up their 800 number. I was talking to a tech like within 3 minutes. The tech said, let's see if we can get your head working. She talked me through opening up the printer, taking out the head, which literally took 2 minutes. I was surprised how easy it was. Didn't solve the problem. They mailed me a new head by FedEx. I had it 2 days later. And this is for a printer that wasn't even under warranty. So I was very impressed with their tech support.
Okay, does that Canon use the cheaper cartridges?
The MX922 uses the $1.50 cartridges.
Okay, are these two printers wireless?
They're both wireless, yes. Did you get that? They're both wireless.
Yes, we heard you. Thank you.
I have a review of the MX922 on my site. I have a review that goes off like a page and a half with all the features.
What's his email address?
bestinkintoner.com. Oh, that's his website. You just use bestinkintoner.com to email you?
Yes. Well, the email is actually sales@ccs-digital.com. If you click, there's a contact button at the bottom. If you click that, that's where it goes.
Okay.
Do we buy the ink from you or from?
Well, if you want to pay $1.50, you buy it from me. If you want to pay $20, go to Staples.
Okay, that's what that was my question. I wondered whose price that was.
Yeah.
So what's the turnaround on ink? Like if I ordered ink today, do you ship it the next day or what's?
I ship within 24 hours. When you're in Florida, so I'd probably be doing the shipping. We have a warehouse in California too. For people who order in the West Coast, we ship direct from there, so save time.
Okay. And what is it better to order? Do you have like a cutoff on shipping costs?
Okay. I don't want to do shipping based on the weight of the item because then you have to sit there and calculate. It becomes very messy. So I came up with my own little thing. A small order, it's $4, $6, and $8. Once it hits $8, it never goes beyond $8. That's our maximum, and it works. Averages out.
Shipping cost.
Yeah,
That's your shipping cost.
yeah. Typically, if we will throw in an extra cartridge. If the shipping is less, we'll throw in an extra cartridge to make up. Try to be fair.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions.
Very good. Sounds good.
Okay.
I'm gonna buy.
Very impressive.
Okay. Now, if you have a few minutes, I asked Stan if you want me to talk about a medical insurance issue. I think everybody should know about. I could talk about it now for 5 minutes.
I would say we do have time, yes.
Yes. Okay. Something happened to me a couple of weeks ago that absolutely shocked me. It could have killed me, and I think a lot of people should know about this. I got my insurance through the exchange, like probably a lot of other people, through Affordable Healthcare. My insurance company has a website with a long list of doctors and hospitals that accept their insurance. And then when I had a kidney stone that was almost completely blocking, that's when I found out my doctor is no longer on the plan. Every hospital in my area was no longer on the plan. I spent over a week trying to get accepted at a hospital because the insurance company kept insisting that they were working on getting me in. And when we called the hospital directly, the hospital says, oh, no, we're not on their plan. We've never been on their plan. We have no contract with them. So the insurance company basically lied on their website. My wife came up with the solution. She called up local hospitals in the area. We just called every hospital, within an hour until we found a hospital that accepted the insurance. And then we said to the hospital, okay, now you give us the doctor. And then we called the doctor. If she hadn't thought of that, I don't know where I would be, because I was in agony and nothing was working and the insurance company was just lying. So I wanted people to know that if you have one of those affordable healthcare plans, find out which hospital accepts it. Don't go by what your insurance company says. Call up the hospitals and make sure they accept it, because you want to be prepared. It could have gone really bad. That's my basic message.
Izzy.
That's important advice. Thank you, Izzy.
Izzy.
Go ahead.
Izzy.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You make refills for HP 96 and 97.
Okay. We stopped selling the older HPs because those printers are like 20 years old. People are getting them in garage sales and in dumpsters, I don't know where. And they were buying cartridges from us. And when the printer didn't work, they sent us back the open cartridges. So the returns started getting too high. We stopped selling those.
What about the brother LC 79 model?
Yeah, okay. 70. I have 75s. I know it's
79's on your website either. It uses 4 cartridges.
Yeah, but is the 79 the same as the 75?
I don't believe so.
Because brother has a bunch of cartridges that all have the same numbers. Okay, I'm looking at it. 71. So no, 79 is not the same. Okay, I'm gonna have to look into 79, and maybe it's a relatively new one.
No, the printer's a couple years old, but I'm personal, so I don't use it. It's a great printer. So is May.
I'll have to check with my supplier. I'm sure he's got a lot of stuff. He just never mentioned those.
Izzy, I've got a question from one of our web attendees.
Yeah.
Recommendations for all-in-one laser printer, and then which laser cartridges can't you import at this time?
All-in-one laser print. Black only or color?
Let's go with black only.
Black only. Okay. I always go with Brother because I've had really good luck with them for 20 years. They typically run 130 to 140 bucks. They take a cartridge called the TN660, which is $20, and it does roughly 2,500 pages. So you're not going to get much cheaper than that. My daughter has one and my son has one. My son prints thousands of pages a month, and he's had his for about 2 years. So I know it stands up.
And his other question was there any laser printer you can't import at this time?
Any that I can't, I'm not aware of any that I can't import, but you know,
Okay.
there are some I just don't recommend because the prices and, you know, the cartridges are just way too high. I tell people to avoid HP because their cartridges are like double everybody else's and do half the pages.
Okay, and he says, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, Izzy, I will have to agree with you on your use of and recommendation for Micro Center. If somebody has a Micro Center in their neighborhood, and they're few and far between, but they're absolutely wonderful. That's the ultimate toy store for computer geeks.
Oh yeah.
Atlanta. There's a Micro Center in Atlanta.
Website?
Atlanta's a little bit closer.
Microcenter.com. Okay. No. Very informative. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And anybody feel free to email me.
I think that's the answer. We'll get the addresses to you all.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to get some business.
Okay.
I'm gonna get a printer